Hello. I just want to check that you can hear me before I go off. Yes, you can. Awesome. Awesome. All right. Welcome to, I believe this is day 4 or 5 of me going live in here. So today's topic is on self-trust because there's a lot of chaos happening in the external world, right? It is, of course, it's the natural response of the shift from into divine feminine awakening, right? And divine feminine awakening is the shift from external focused leadership to internal focused leadership, and creating infrastructure, creating external infrastructure that nurtures souls instead of extracting, extracting is the shadow aspect of the divine masculine archetype, right? And I mean, it wouldn't even be divine masculine without a shadow, would it? No, it would be, because hey, we're here to have a human experience. So there's the dark side and the light side, and it all serves a purpose. So with a lot of people recognizing with the Epstein list, with the realizing the pattern that, you know, in all governments, you know, there's a lot of criminals in there, right? All of them are not for the people, they're for themselves. There's a lot of like awakening happening, like, man, I can't trust nobody. Even some people in the office who are meant to serve the community, they're not really doing it for the community, they're doing it for like a you know, because they have a chip on the shoulder, they never felt special, and it was like a personal vendetta, and now they're like, you know, having a power trip over their position. There's a lot of like misplaced power, people misusing their power, and it's been happening for a long time. And because people now are realizing, hey, I can have a choice on what I plug into, thanks to social media. I can choose what I can plug into. I can choose what I align my energy to. I can choose who to listen to, right? Because you can just listen to something and then scroll on to something. There's so much different information coming from different ways, and we can, our human can only absorb so much. So we're having information exhaustion, right? Mental exhaustion, emotional exhaustion is just too much, and we're unplugging from social media. We're touching grass. And it's funny hearing touching grass has now entered mainstream, right? It's like you can tell from the words, the phrases that enter mainstream, like where the subconscious of humanity is, where it's going. It's like, okay, I need to go into nature and just stay away from technology, from artificial reality. And even here, like here on if I was to share this on YouTube, I risk the, you know, the probability of being blocked, or my videos being not being shown if I say specific words, right? It's very it feels disempowering if you really believe in this external authority having power over your life. And that's where majority of humanity is at. And we as leaders have the sacred role in embodying what it means to be sovereign from all this stuff, to show like, hey, yeah, I can be sovereign, even if we were programmed that no, we can't be sovereign. I'm still surviving. I'm still untouched. I'm still unbothered. I don't align with programming that makes me feel unsafe in my body, right? Because if you're unsafe in your body, how can you trust your intuition? How can you trust and fully receive your divinity, and it anchoring into your body and it expressing through you? How can you allow the Holy Spirit to really stabilize and expand your soul architecture. We spoke about soul architecture a couple of days ago in was it in Shadow Alchemy? It was somewhere else. Oh, it was in Essence Mapping, which is like the second pillar of the Sovereign Codex, if you're in stage 3 right now. And because when you distrust external authority, maybe you don't respect the men in your family because you're noticing like, hey, there's a negative pattern of men in my family not creating a safe space for women, that they don't listen to women, they don't do that, or they behave in a way that's not in alignment with divine masculine, right? Divine masculine is the highest expression of the masculine expression, embodiment. And divine masculine is an energy. It's not solely based on genitalia. It's not based on these social constructs. It's an energy, right? And this energy, divine feminine and divine masculine, they all are embodied in men, women, in whatever, in nature, right? It's just an expression of containment. What kind of containment is it, right? Divine masculine is mostly outside, physical, right? It's structure. It is, and the shadow aspect of it, it's being rigid, right? Not willing to change, right? And when we see like in evolution, in species, in any species in evolution, those that are too rigid, right? There's two sides of the story. Those that are too rigid, that are not morphing to the environment, that are not adjusting to the environment, they don't survive, right? They don't evolve. Like we can debate about dinosaurs, right? Evolving into chickens. Right, there's a lot of like science that backs that up, or some of the dinosaurs evolving to lizards, to crocodiles, right, because the environment couldn't support them anymore, or a lot of things have gone extinct, right, based on them not being able to catch up to the environment, being able to be fully supported with the environment, not being able to adjust to Mother Nature's frequency, because they're so out. And most of humanity, that's where it's heading towards. They're heading towards extinction because of this egoistic belief that, the universe evolves around us, right? It's a narcissistic expression of humanity, where we believe that we're the only superior intelligence in the entire universe. Where we believe that world domination is all there is. Like if I dominate the world, then I live for eternity, which is not true, right? Your eternity is within your soul. It's not within an external domination, dominating other people and enslaving other people so that you feel superior, you feel powerful. You don't feel this inferiority you don't feel this chip on your shoulder. But the chip on your shoulder always follows you no matter what, until you come within yourself and connect to your divine feminine expression and heal that and nurture all these parts that have been exiled because of this chip on the shoulder, and bring yourself back to wholeness. And a lot of infrastructure, a lot of like rhetoric in the mainstream, it's based on this, because this is how things have been run this whole time. This is where they've proved like, oh look, this era lasted longer than this era, but it doesn't mean that it's the right way, right? If the majority of people are going a specific way, and when you're noticing, when you're having your spiritual awakening, when you're having your ego death, when you're even, for me it was a Kundalini awakening. I don't know what unique experience cracked you open to realize that there's more to life, there's a bigger picture that you haven't tapped into, right? So with spirituality, with religion, with politics, it's usually there's always an ulterior motive, right? To make you feel special, more special than other people, to make you feel chosen, to make you feel superior to other people, of which that is a natural consequence of aligning yourself with specific values, right? But at the essence of it, if we're really going to connect to a divinity and to anchor in truth, we are all God's children. And if you truly believe in God and you truly believe in the divine expression of life through the human body, through all animals, right? If you believe that God is omnipresent, right, you would understand that God is not an outside person, right? It's not an outside being. It's a however you express or you understand God, that's a personal, I believe it's a personal journey, and no one should come in between that. It should be based on your own personal understanding and what brings you safe and peace. But what I'm trying to say is, when you're coming back to truth, right? Truth doesn't need arguing. It doesn't need manipulation. It doesn't need people debating and saying, oh, they're wrong, they're right. It just is, right? And for me personally, I believe what I grew up in a Christian household, and I was taught, and I still believe, right, that no one's going to be left behind. Even if it takes you a couple lifetimes to get it, you're not going to be left behind. You just have to make the active choice to keep choosing love, right? And because in our DNA, we have so much information that is not ours, that we have borrowed from our ancestors. We have access to so much thought forms, mental hive that is not ours, right? And on top of that, with social media, we're now connecting to other mental hives, to other ancestors, other people's ancestors. So of course, mental illness is on the rise because people do not know that they are not their thoughts. People do not know how to just watch their thoughts and detach, to just see them as clouds instead of actually seeing it as a true expression of who they are. And when they see that, when they experience that as thought, they leak a lot of energy. They fight the energy. They feel a lot of anxiety, right? And this is where you see people numbing a lot. There's a lot of like, what do they call these, vapes? Yeah, vapes. And I understand, like, in a lot of indigenous cultures, tobacco is used as a way to, it's a spiritual practice. But when it becomes a numbing tool, right? When it becomes a numbing tool where you're not actually regulating yourself, you're not using your tools to actually pay attention to your emotional needs, then you're disconnecting from this divine embodiment, from actually hearing God clearly. Because God speaks through sensations. God speaks through this gnosis. But how can you have this gnosis, this true understanding of what God is through you as a child of God? How would you know that if you're disconnecting from that part that speaks to your heart, right? That speaks to the aliveness of what you are? How can you be safe enough to experience the fullness of your humanity, right? And to learn through the fullness of your humanity so that you can actually embody the divine principles that need to be embodied in order for you to bridge your human to your soul, right? And to help others bridge their human to their soul so that they don't feel like, oh my gosh, I've been abandoned, by God. God is not coming, and they feel like they have to perform and reject their humanity, and perform this divinity that they haven't fully registered in their body, but they're trying to emulate through their body and pedestal against other people so they feel superior, so they can emulate this feeling that they feel inferior to. How can you do that if you're not actually holding space for your dark and lightness? How can you show others how to do it when it is not registering in your body? So I think it was the last video when we spoke about shame, how to navigate shame. A lot of people believe in shaming and creating shame for others, right? I don't believe in that. I believe shame already is in the body. Your body already knows, your full bodies already know how to course correct, right? And shame is a consequence of feeling that course correction. I don't believe in creating and amplifying that shame. I believe in mirroring what's already in the body so that it can be processed. Your body can process it through all your full bodies. So a lot of these external architectures, right? These external authorities that we have been born into, that we have aligned to, that we've been trained to listen to as the only authority in our life, right? They use a lot of these negative emotions to manipulate you out of your inner authority. That's when you know, like, oh, this authority is not in alignment with the divine truth. That what they're creating, what they're building momentum towards, it is not in alignment with divine architecture, right? And when you have that gnosis and when you know how to filter that information, right, it becomes less stabilizing. It just feels more freeing. It creates more space, right? But because now you're pivoting from having external structure that was designed for you, where you didn't even have to think, where you didn't have to have responsibility for your power. Actually, it enabled you to avoid your power, right? To clutch your power, to be a victim, right? Now you're realizing, like, oh snap, like I have to take responsibility for all these times that I was victimizing myself and I hurt people through that. I was avoiding my power and I hurt people through that, and I hurt myself. It's that a lot of people cannot process that emotional weight, right? Because that emotional weight is what actually creates momentum to go within yourself and process and sit with yourself and not numb. And you know, it comes to a point where you can't even numb because the emotional weight is so big, right? And during that process, right, a lot of people run away and like, you know what, oh no, they start pointing fingers at people who have been helping them come back to their own internal power and see them as the villain and bunch everyone together and who are embodied in the internal authority and calling them like, oh, new age this, new age that, or satanic worshippers, demonic, because they don't have the capacity to process this emotional weight that comes with having personal sovereignty, right? And actually doing the work to deepen your capacity to hold your power. A lot of people choose to have power without roots. Power without roots is dangerous, and this is how we've created this society where people believe like, oh, homeless people should just be ended, should be unalived because it doesn't look right, you know, that they're taking up all our resources, right? Which is just based on scarcity. That's not divine principle, and that's actually demonic, because true divine expression, it's created in abundance, in the assumption of abundance, right? The universe is always expanding. There's always more. We don't know everything. There's more to learn. There's more to experience. There's nuance and different levels to every knowing, and there's context in every knowing. But when you see yourself as the authority, the only authority in how the future of humanity should be, then it's dangerous, because you're condensing all that power into one person. And as a human, we're very flawed. If one person has all the power, right? Imagine all those flaws, all those shadows, especially if you don't have capacity to take full responsibility for your actions. And you're always like, oh no, it's not my fault, it's their fault, it's their fault, it's their fault, it's their fault. No, and you're always gaslighting and manipulating people's perspectives because it doesn't align with what makes you feel safe inside. True power is about actually feeling those uncomfortable emotions and realizing, hey, other people's perspectives, even though they're true and they're different from mine, what is the bigger picture from here? What is the intention that will bring us mutual a mutual agreement? There's no collaboration. It's just like hierarchy, like, oh, domination, right? And when we embody these principles of domination, right? Because we're learning it from the external authorities, and when we embody it in our personal relationships, this is where we feel very isolated. This is where we feel like we're around people who only want the shell, our shell, not our depth, right? Because it's all about playing games. It's all about personal agenda. There's no really community. There's no community. There's no, like, your network is not in alignment with your values. So pivoting from external authority, right, to internal authority, it becomes less stabilizing when you clarify your value system, right? And when you clarify your value system, this is where it becomes easier to filter information, right? You filter information quicker. You can even tell, like, when someone speaks in the first 10 seconds, you can feel the energy, and your intuition will amplify the energy within your body, and you instantly know like, oh yeah, this person, yeah, no, they're speaking from the wounded ego. Oh, this person, oh, they're speaking from a fragment of themselves. Oh, this person, they have an agenda. They are using my energy to feel better about themselves. You start noticing these patterns, right? Because you're now sourcing this information from within. You've reconnected to your divine self. So you just start knowing shit. Because we're all connected. From the divine expression, we are all one, right? So it's like you're tapping into information that's already within your system, right? Because we're all having a human experience. So when we know, like, oh, we're all having a human experience, okay, who's having a human experience I am now opening myself up to? Because we are all graduating from different baselines, right? Other people's baselines are not in alignment with your own baseline, right? We're always evolving, right? So you want to pay attention to, like, who am I allowing into my inner circle, and do their baseline match the baseline, the baseline I have for my own life, right? And this is not about pointing fingers. This is just about creating inevitable success for yourself, right? Because the person who has the highest baseline in their network, they're the ones who people gravitate towards, right? So this is an embodied, earned power, earned authority. It's an embodiment. There's no manipulating. There's no I was about to say that word, but I don't want. I'm gonna put this video on YouTube, and I don't want it to be pulled down. The P word, Ganda, right? P Ganda, right? So there's no, like, all this building systems to make people believe a lie. There's none of that. There's just silence, there's stillness, and the people receiving your energy, right? The things that you do in the background where people are not watching is what captures your energy, right? It's where you're embodying from. So even if you're doing stuff in the background and you're like, oh, no one knows, no one sees, well, divinity is omnipresent, right? So it sees everything, right? This awareness of you seeing yourself speak, you seeing yourself think that thought, who is that? That's God. That's pure awareness, right? You and God are one. But a lot of people are fracturing from this awareness and becoming one with thoughts because they have been trained to disconnect from this marriage and this unity with God. And it's happening a lot more right now because they're losing power. They're noticing, like, oh my gosh, so many people are waking up and asking questions, right? So many people are being held accountable right now for their power, for their misuse of power. So now when it comes back to owning your power and where you plug in your attention, even within yourself, right? There's a difference between avoiding facing something because it makes you see things within yourself you don't want to see, versus unplugging from something because it doesn't align with the future you want to create, right? So that you want to really pay attention to that nuance, because when you're avoiding what you don't want to see, you're going to carry that chip on your shoulder no matter what. No matter what you create, right? Eventually you want to go in and enjoy that life. But how much are you going to be able to enjoy the life if you've got that chip on your shoulder? So you might as well face it right now, right? And process it and allow it to transform you from within, so that, you know, when you're enjoying your desires, when you're enjoying your dream life, it there's a certain quality, it's an improved quality. You're dropped in, there's gravity in your pleasure. It's not like that, you know, the pleasure that just hits the surface and it goes. That artificial pleasure. It has depth, it has roots, right? So this is what the second stage of the sovereign progression teaches you, right? So we started with safety, internal safety, creating internal safety, right? Transmuting what made you unsafe in the external world, and transmuting it through your heart, and using it to inform you and to give you clarity on where within yourself you want to amplify safety within yourself, and then using that freed up energy to reference, like every information you get in your external reality, really compare notes to your internal value systems. Like, what are my values? What is my value system, right? And what are the beliefs around these value systems? What beliefs do I need to deconstruct so that my value system has gravity, has weight, has roots? Not these values that change when I find a different group. When I find a different group that looks cooler than me, that feels cooler, when somebody that values that that disintegrate when someone shames me, right? You really want to pay attention to the patterns of how you responded to your past experiences, because your values are often hidden in there, right? Most of the times our motivation to respond, to react, right, comes from needing to protect our value system. But oftentimes we don't have the support system, the right tools to ensure that we do that in a way that protects our dignity, that way we can communicate our boundaries. We often don't have that. So we often react, and we end up getting the results that we don't want. And we often create limiting beliefs based on how other people responded. But when you go back to your past and realize, like, oh yeah, my values have always been there, because your values are so deep. They're not based on your human, they're so deep. This is how you know that your values have gravity, have roots. They're connected to your soul, right? It's what your soul is willing to die on. And when you do that, and you look at the past patterns of how you responded in the internal motivation, you gain clarity and self-respect. You regain your self-respect for your past self, for all the parts of yourself in the past where you feel a lot of shame, where you feel like, man, like, I wasted 20 years listening to this guy, and this guy has been exposed, and I based my whole identity around that, right? Or you just realizing the whole infrastructure that this person is referencing to is not in alignment with my soul. It takes me away from my soul. So there's a grieving process that has to happen for you to be able to create space and opening within yourself to actually see who you truly are outside of what other people are telling you you are, right? Because if information that you're gathering is not bringing you back to your wholeness, it's not bringing you back to your divinity that's already present, then yeah, it becomes an issue. So I have to go to, as a support, you can find Getting to Know Yourself in 21 days. That's what will support you through with this. Otherwise, I'm curious what you really connected with, what came through for you. You can leave it in the comment section. Otherwise, see you on the other side.